Hey folks, this is Tony Aguilar, and we're going to be doing a little painting here on Thursday night. And I've finished my latest project, my Middle Eastern project, and started right back and working on my next one, which is going to be the medieval Irish here. And I've already painted two Saloy figures for them, and it's these guys right here. These are Essex figures, and almost the entire army of these are going to be consisted of Essex figures. But I was painting this morning. I got one guy, the second guy, painted this morning, and I had something happen that I hadn't happened to me in probably 20 years of painting, and that's a paint spill. This is the cruel reminder of don't be clumsy in the morning, but because I am very particular about my cleaning mat, my cutting mat, which I don't never cut on, and I scrub it down from time to time because invariably you do end up getting a little bit of paint. It's pretty much untouched, and I like to keep it that way. One of the reasons to do that I'm able to do that is if you have a mishap like this, like a paint spill, which really went nowhere. I cleaned it up with just some napkins I had laying around that you use to dry off your brushes. Yeah, I hadn't had one of those happen in 20 years now. Unfortunately, the paint that this happened on was I was painting this tiny little the scabbard here for the sword, so I was using a tiny little bit of paint and ended up spilling half the bottle there. So luckily, it's I still have half a bottle of this Cote d'Armes Russian Brown. It's probably my favorite paint brand, just how it flows. So kind of a mishap there, but oh well. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't get on any other figures, and it didn't ruin my painting surface. So if you're wondering why there's a big splot here, that's what that is. So I had that, and I had a mishap with yellow. I think that's the only two painting mishaps that I've had. I'm really pretty neat when it comes to that, or fortunate so far. Let me stop running my mouth, or we're going to have a disaster on our hands. but but anyhow, yeah, that happened this morning. Painting the second guy, and we're going to roll right in and see if we can paint a guy here alive. Now, I'm going to take a different tack on this army than I've ever done before. I kind of going to take it as a challenge. Let me get my wet palette here, and I can explain it a little bit to you. So, the contrary to popular belief, this is a DBA army, and this kind of I would say a weak army. But contrary to popular belief, the Irish of this time period did not wear a lot of green. As a matter of fact, I just did some cursory reading because I've been hitting the ground running on these guys pretty much as right after finishing the other project. But from what I understand, the official Irish color is yellow, and it had something to do with their mythological properties or something like that. I don't want to get too into it because I'll end up getting corrected, and I didn't read very much into it, but enough that I've seen a lot of these figures for this time period Irish army end up being they wearing what they call saffron. Okay, so that's kind of what the whole army's theme is going to be, is yellow. You would think that an Irish army would be green, right? I mean, why wouldn't it be? Well, that's just it. It's really saffron that they used. And as a matter of fact, to the point where I think when the English were doing the incursions and occupation in Ireland, they wanted to ban them from wearing yellow to kind of neuter them. But anyhow, so this time period, you'll have a saffron colored. I don't know exactly if it's a tunic, but that's basically what most of them wear. So I figured what I'm going to do is, especially learning from the project that I did last time, that I just finished, the Middle Eastern project from my carriage. I swear every time I bring them up, I say them a little bit different. I watched a couple of videos, and it was almost like garage, but the carriage, where I had a bunch of figures that had to wear off whites, and I didn't want them to look boring. I wanted them to have character. I'm going to kind of enter the same thing here with the Irish, where I've got to use yellow on every one of them, at least for the commoners here. They've got some mounted guys and stuff like that, but most of the army is going to be yellow. So the challenge I'm going to do, I'm going to give myself is I'm going to use the same, and I know I've talked about this in previous videos, of what I call the core color. And what that is the color that I use to mix everything else into. Okay, so I take a color and I basically I darken it and start lightening it up, and that's what I call the core color. This core color is going to be the same for the entire army. Okay, and the color that I'm using is this guy called Gold Brown by Vallejo, number 126. It's 126 or 877. Someone explained to me that one of them is the number in the rack and the other one's the number of the paint. But regardless of what it is, you don't have to use this one. But Gold Brown, this is what I'm using as my core color for the entire army. Well, Tony, that just sounds boring. Like they're all going to look the same. Aha! Well, that's just it. They're not. And because of my painting style that I use, where's my little thing where I can stand? Here you go. So you guys can see this a little bit. This is the first guy I painted, okay? This uses the gold brown as the core color, right? This is the second guy I painted. Has the same yellow as the core color. What? Well, because I ended up adding brown, this one, to darken it up, and then bring it up to this core color and started adding a little bit of highlight. And then here, I started, instead of using brown, I ended up using black. See how it's kind of greenish looking? See if the light's hitting that. But it's the same core color yellow. That's what I'm going to do with the whole army. Well, at least for this Saloy. I may end up doing the blades a little bit different. You know, there's 3 stands of the blades. So, but anyhow, that's going to be my challenge. Of course, some of these guys have capes. Like you've got this guy, for instance. He's going to have a tunic on him. Okay, he's got a tunic on him, but he's also wearing a cape. Well, the cape won't be yellow, but the main tunic will be yellow for all of them, or it'll be that core. So to prove what I'm doing is we're going to do the next guy. All right, so let's pick our candidate for number 3 for these guys. And these all are really common in that they are all Essex miniatures, and they also are all barefoot. And yeah, we're gonna do this guy here. We're gonna do this guy here, who is just a standard guy. He's barefoot. He's got a tunic. He's got a beard. He's got a javelin, and he's got a very rustic looking shield that won't have a design on it because it almost looks like it's part of like a table that he picked up. Hopefully it's lighter than a table. That's going to be a pain to carry that thing around. But anyhow, this is our candidate, and we're going to, he's going to be a dark-haired one, okay? We can't make everybody in the whole army red-haired, as much as fun as that sounds. And as a matter of fact, this guy is a redhead, kind of a strawberry blonde guy. We don't want to go crazy with, bright red hair, but we may have one of those guys to stand out. But, we're going to mix it up. I paint these guys individually, so you never know what you're going to get. So anyhow, so we're going to start with this dude here. Let's move these guys. Well, we can keep this on the screen. Is that going to be on the screen over here? Yeah. We need to zoom in on the color, because this is what we're going to get into, is the color mixing here. This is what I enjoy the most, honestly. Okay, so here's our core color, that gold brown, all right? And the one we just did, we ended up mixing black with it, okay? And the other one we mixed brown. So if you look here, this is kind of the brown color that we did. And here's the one with the black is here, okay? It does turn greenish when you start adding black to it, but that's okay. There's a purpose for it. All right, so this is going to be another yellow tunic guy, but somehow he's going to miraculously look different. At least that's my idea. Okay, see if we can zoom out one little bit. Okay, where are we going to be working? Here? Okay. All right, so let's get some of that gold brown. I want to make sure now this particular gold brown is very, very watery. So I want to, no, that's not too bad here on the end. All right, make sure that the mixing area is here. All right, so This is our core color. I don't know if that's correct terminology, but that's toning terminology. That's what I've always called it. I try to explain things in ways that make sense to me. So I am not a teacher, but like I said, maybe you guys will find something useful here. Maybe you'll get some tips for maybe trying something different, some experimentation on your own. So, all right, we're going to grab like a medium brown. We don't want to use that dark brown we did first. He is going to have a dark beard, so we're going to use a medium brown. Okay. Monster brown. Let's not bring in the War Master paints. There's nothing wrong with the War Master paints, but they tend to be runnier, and we don't need extra runny when we already have a core color that's kind of runny itself. So this is Flat Earth. Now, this is one of them. You hear that? There's the mixing ball, Army Painter mixing ball. I brought this up on other videos. I highly recommend these Army Painter mixing balls. It seems like they're steep to spend $6 on 100 of these, or 100 or so of them. But I think they were a good value because I only put them in a bottler if it needs it. And most of my paints don't need this. It's just some of the colors that seem to be more obstinate, I should say. So let's see this Flat Earth. This is definitely a color that's in my candidates to buy another replacement of. I think I had added some water to it in the past, and it probably wasn't the best idea. Yeah, this one's too watery. This one's too watery. We're going to have to go to something else. Okay, we're going to find... I just want to pick something that's a little bit different than the ones we have. Let's try this one. This one's got a little bit of red in it. And this is flat brown. Just flat brown, but it's funny. It looks reddish compared to some of the other browns I have here. All right, so we're going to put a little bit of a sample here. And that's got a little bit of the water that traveled to the top. Some of these colors I haven't used in a while. I think this is one of them. There we go. We don't need a whole lot. All right, that's good. All right. This is going to be our darkener. Or what I like to call, we're going to be creating some negative colors here. Okay. So we're going to take our core color, which is here, this gold brown, and we're going to add some of this darkener. We got to be crazy. We got to make sure we don't go too dark. That's about right. We could probably even go a little darker than that. All right, we're going to take this color. We're going to paint his. All we're worried about right now is his tunic. We're going to paint his entire tunic. I'll have to look up and see if that's actually what it's called. I'm sure it's got some particular name for it. We're going to paint his entire tunic in this color. And it's okay if some of the black shows through, okay? Because that's going to automatically give it some extra shading in there. Just paint the whole thing over in that color. Now, I could have painted the whole thing this color, but then I'd end up having to bring it up to about this anyways. So why don't we just start with this? What I'm basically looking for is what's the darkest shade that any of the shadows are going to be on this guy's tunic. And if none of them really would be darker than this, then why even bother going to that and having to build it up? Okay, so here we go. This is the most boring part of the whole process, where you're just painting all of something in one color without any thought to it. I had a friend of mine who recently mentioned that he was going to try my method, and he called it wet on wet. And I said, no, I wouldn't say that I paint wet on wet. I would say I paint, because wet on wet insists that is like what I'm doing here on the palette. It's more like thin on thin. I'm adding a thin layer on another layer, because what will happen is some of the color from the previous layer will show through. It's not super thin. I just kind of developed that, I think, because I didn't want to cover up the detail of the figure, because this guy is going to end up having probably 6 layers or so of color. Now we need more of this thing faded away, so we need a little bit more. We weren't quite done with this. Now I do prime black, and sometimes you'll end up having Some of the black will chip off. Like for instance, there's a spot here on his elbow that this disappeared on. The hell with it. I'm not going to go back in and add black to it. It'll get covered enough. It will get covered. It's not an issue. Yeah, this is reddish type of almost some kind of Georgia clay or something like that color. But anyways, we're going to mix that thing up. You can, again, we're going to use the same core color on all of the Saloy for sure. The Saloy, there's 6 stands, so there's 12 figures of them. So they're all going to have the same core color. They don't have to have that. I just think it's going to be really cool when you guys see the finished result and be like, man, they look really varied. I said, yeah, it's all the same yellow dudes. I'm really enjoying that. I think that having to, I'll pour myself a drink here. Again, not an adult beverage. We've got, I am fueled by iced coffee and Coke Zero. That's what we're doing now. So, but anyhow, it's going to be pretty cool to look at the whole army and say, hey, this was all done with the same core color. So we're basically done with this guy here. Okay, we've painted the entire figure in this color. And you know what? I'm going to take these guys down because I think this actually, the camera focuses pretty well on it. And as we go from one color to the other, I think I'm going to bring it out there. And it also doesn't, my hand isn't shaking as much. Not because I got the shake, but just because. Okay, so we've got got some medium type brown tone to them. You wouldn't even know there was any yellow in it, okay? So this is what I like to call the most negative shade. Okay, maybe like a neg 3 shade. All right, and this, of course, the core color will be the zero. The zero. Kind of think of it as like a number line. Okay, this is a neg 3. So we're going to take this. We may need a little bit more brown here, but we're going to take this shade here and we're going to bring it up a notch by adding more of the core color. This is that golden brown. Okay, we're going to bring it up one more. Okay, which is going to be something kind of like this right here. Okay, that looks good. And I'm using a fairly big brush because I don't need to really do any details. Fairly big. Well, this is a 1 round. It's just compared to, like, say, something I do faces on. See if we can hold these up to the... Yeah, pretty big. But it's got a good tip and it's got a pretty good control. So we're just going to hit the highlight spots. Okay. Let's see if you guys can see what the difference is here between the dark and the light. All right. All right, and we're going to avoid any creases. Doesn't have to be perfect because there's going to be higher levels than this one anyways. So some of these areas that have other folds are just not as thick of folds, and we'll hit them later. So, but you want to make sure that you make the thicker folds stand out at this stage. The deeper folds, I should say. Okay. And all we're worried about right now is the tunic. That's all we're going to worry about. So I'm not a huge fan of Essex Army packs because sometimes you just get the wrong poses and you're stuck with whatever you got. But I don't necessarily mind their figures. It's not necessarily their figures. Now, I'll be honest with you, they do have some odd poses. Now, with that said, these sculptors do a hell of a lot better job than I would be doing. I'm just a painter. So, but some of the poses are kind of awkward. There's one in particular that had a lot of repeat figures in that same pose, and I'm just not going to use any of them in this army because the pose is just ridiculous. I don't have him handy right now, but I'll show them to you at a later date. It is not necessarily how the figure is sculpted. Yeah, it is. What I mean is it's the pose that they're in. They're just that you'd never walk by and ever see a person standing like that. It's more of that type of a thing, you know. So like this is a pretty good pose. I mean, there'd be a guy, standing like that. I got one guy that I don't particularly care for, but I'm going to use him anyways. And this guy may have been, and Essex does a lot of castings like this. Okay. This guy's javelin is exactly in the same line as the arm, and which is fine, but there's no space between the arm and the javelin. It's just like a straight conduit. It just doesn't look right to me. But we're going to put him in the army. That's my only beef really with Essex. Oh, and some of their older figures do have they kind of a bendy metal, which lances and stuff like that get all like spaghetti shaped. But I don't dislike their figures. I just don't like that they come in an army pack with, well, these are the guys you're going to use. And I'm like, that's one of my favorite things. So I had all kinds of figures I had gotten from, I know I've said probably garage sales, but what I meant to say is flea markets and conventions. And I'm like, well, I may need these later. Well, that's kind of when I looked at building this army is I already had basically all the foot for it. So I did jumped the gun a tiny little bit and ordered some mounted for them because they have some mounted. And we'll do, of course, an unboxing from them when they come in. And I even ordered, I was fortunate that the mounted I ordered from was from a vendor I've never done business with before. And one that doesn't get a lot of traction. So hopefully you guys will get a treat with that. Maybe you'll find some products that you didn't know about, or because the other thing I'm enjoying painting what I like to call second tier figures. So this is why I don't want to sponsor, because I just want to tell things how they are. I don't want to be beholden to something. There's some figure manufacturers that are top tier. That would be Legio Heroica, which unfortunately I don't have any of them, but I've seen them and they're beautiful. Zyston. Who else would be top tier? Some of the Kurosan stuff. Of course, I'm just talking 15 millimeter. I'm not really familiar with the 28s, though there's a lot of 28 millimeter stuff that I like. I don't paint 28s. Look, you guys don't have 10 hours to devote for me to paint one figure, okay? So that's that. There used to be not any 28s I was really interested in, but now they're just about everybody makes some, and there's many companies that I like. But that's for another lifetime because I don't paint 28s. But in 15s, top tier would be, in my opinion, of course, Merlaton. Okay, Merlaton, especially their newer stuff. Merlaton, some Kurosan, Legio Heroica, Zyston. What else I'm missing? Oh yeah, those new forged in battle figures. I've seen them painted. I haven't seen them in the flesh, in the lead. We'll come back to that discussion in a second. We're going to show you guys where we're at here so far. Okay, so this is after having, so we put the Neg 3 on. This is the Neg 2. Okay, so you've got the core color with some of the brown still in it. I think we need to move that there. All right, now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to add more yellow to it. So there's different ways you can take this also. If you literally could sit down and paint two different figures, and what you're going to end up doing is you could call this the 0 instead of this the 0, and lighten this up instead of waiting till you get to here to lighten that up and get two different differentiations. That's why I said I'm going to paint all these 12 figures all using this as the core color or as the ingredient on there, and it should work. That's my theory anyway. So I've got enough experience behind me that if I start doing like the third and fourth and fifth guy, and it looks like, hey, they kind of look like the same and they look like not how I like them, I can stop and punt, That's when experience comes in. When you're on the wrong track, you start painting and you're not all the way through a project and you realize, this really isn't going to turn out how I thought it was going to turn out. So you can stop. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that. What I just said, we just decided we're going to do, this is the core color now. Ha! Look at that. So what the hell does that mean? Well, it means we're going to grab Mr. White. It doesn't have to be white. As a matter of fact, I just decided it's not going to be white. Like this is improv painting, folks. Uh, Improv Painting 101. Uh, let's grab, yeah, let's grab this dark sand color. Okay, it's yellowish, right? Could be faded in the sun. These are different materials. It could fade differently in the sun depending how they're worn, depending what depending what kind of whiskey these guys drank. There's had spilled on them. All right, so we're going to let's add a little bit of this. Okay, a little bit of this. Improv painting. Yeah, this is the part I enjoy. What I'm doing right now, creating folds, painting uh, a lead thing to make it look like wood. It's the fake out stuff is the part I enjoy doing. You can kind of put your own little spin on it. So, but anyhow, what I enjoy, getting back to the tier, what I was saying, I enjoy painting second and third tier figures. That's those figures that didn't just come out last year. They've been around forever and don't usually get any love because for whatever reason, like there's no pictures of them online, so people can't see like, oh, what do the figures look like, or they're painted by not the best painters to show them off. Because I'm sure you guys have seen, some figure manufacturers like, man, I don't know what those figures look like. I wish somebody had different had painted them. I personally think that the best way to sell figures is show them unpainted because I'd rather risk them being shown unpainted than painted by someone that could actually give them a disservice, I should say. I'd rather just, like they just take like a black and white picture, or maybe it's color, and they just pour like an ink wash over the figures so you could see, the quality of the sculpting. But that's just me. Maybe some people like painted figures to get inspiration, which I don't blame them as long as, like I said, it's doing the figures a service, not a disservice. Um, but anyhow, I enjoy painting figures that are not well known, that people don't think of, like those names I said first here. Okay, I don't even mean Essex because Essex is everywhere. Um, but I'm talking like your old tabletop miniatures. I'm talking about your old, who else? The guys that I have that are really funky looking. Tin Soldier, okay? Tin Soldier. Some of the museums, some of, not the new ones. People really rave about those new figures. The X series or the Z series or something like that by museum. Old minifigs. Irregular, okay? Irregular. There's not pictures of Irregular, and some of the stuff painted on the regular site's not very endearing. But I've bought some of their figures, and they've some of their figures are pretty cool. My standard bearer for my Turks is an irregular figure, and I think he's a great casting. Um, who else? The company I just ordered from. I'm not going to tell you who that is because that'll spoil the fun. But it's someone I've never ordered from before, and I would call them a second tier manufacturer. Some people would consider Roundway. You guys have seen my Roundway stuff. Kind of a second tier manufacturer. I love their stuff, and they have a consistent look, and it's a look that I like, so I like them. But they're not somebody that you could go and, well, there's not a single picture on their website. And okay, so let's get to the point where we're gonna add a little bit more of this lightener to here, and go up one more shade. And then we'll probably just add white, and then we're probably done with this tunic. I really need to find out what this is called. A frock, maybe? No, maybe a frock is something different. But we'll find out what it is. So this is going to be yellowish. They don't all have to be exactly the same the same tint. And I could probably paint this a lot quicker if I was using some kind of dip method or whatever, but that's not something I do. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy doing this part. I enjoy doing a lot. So, okay, we're almost ready to add the white. Let me show you guys what I got here. Okay, now this is the same core color as this. Now, I don't know how much much you can tell on the quality on the camera, but um, after you varnish these, I almost said lacquer, and I would have been correct because that's what it is. It's spray lacquer. They'll look a lot better. It'll bring all the colors together. Um, Seems to work a lot better. So, um, yeah. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of white to this guy. Oh, way too much. Well, we don't have to grab it from here. We'll just grab it from up here. This will be for some of the later stages here. There we go. And I just hit the spots where you would think that the sun would be shining on it. So especially the shoulders. Then what we're going to go to next is we're going to go ahead and do the flesh blend. So I can show you my tried and true color blend that I've been very happy with for Caucasian flesh. Been using the same flesh method since the mid 90s, I'd say. I had to change it a little bit when the Citadel paints I was using were no longer available. So we had to change one of the colors, a little bit significant. So okay, I think we're going to hit him a little bit more with. Oh, we already had that shade down here. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not used to making more than one. I just kind of do it as I go. So this is going to be the lightest shade. We're going to go ahead and ditch this. Get a brush that has a little bit more, a little bit thinner. Yeah, I find doing this little process very relaxing. Just don't try to, if you want to try to do something like this, just don't try to tackle too much in one go. You know, realize, hey, this is going to take multiple layers. Don't try to do it all in one layer, it won't look right. The other thing I do is by not varnishing these figures till the end, I don't do the whole army, but like all these skirmishers, I'm going to wait until they're all done to varnish them. And the reason that I do that in case, and I don't know that I could verify that this actually has happened in the past, but it's a theory. If I go and look at them and realize, man, I wish that I had put like a little bit of detail or a different color on that one figure, I still can because I haven't sealed them all. So, I mean, I guess I could do it after I sealed it as well, but that's kind of my double check. So this is what we got this guy looking like. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and do a flesh mix. All right. And let's go grab the new part of this over here. Now my flesh mix that I use for Caucasians, and if you guys watched any of my painting things on my carriage, I use a modified version of it, but this is just my Caucasian flesh. So if you're painting Normans or anything like that, yeah, so I use, see if I can say this correctly, Sunny Skin Tone. I always have trouble saying that, of course. And I'll grab my glasses here, because I got to use my glasses to see. Red Leather. And of course, I won't show you the black and white, but these two colors and black and white. This is Sunny Skin Tone for Vallejo and Red Leather from Vallejo, and black and white. The black and white don't have to be Vallejo. I've used El Cheapo craft paint ones as well, but I used to as well. But now since I got the wet palette and it's not drying out on me, I kind of leave them in the middle, and they're good for a while. All right, so we're going to start off by getting some black. I put that black down like 2 days ago, and it's still plenty wet to work. Okay, we're going to come over here, add some black, and grab red leather. Put a little dot of red leather up here. We'll put it in the same spot the other one used to be in. And same thing with the Sunny Skin Tone. Yeah, anything that involves like mindless painting, like, okay, paint everything blue in one color, in one shade. I'm like, that's the stuff that bores me, because I figure anybody can do it. Why are they getting me to do that? Anybody could just paint that. I want to be able to draw the waves in, or whatever. So, all right, so we've got our black here. We're going to take red leather and we're going to mix it in. And we're looking for our negative shade that we're going to paint all of the fleshy portions in. And I mentioned that I paint kind of thin. Well, the thickest layer is the first one, because you got to try to cover over black. So, and that kind of helps, forces you to kind of put a bottom layer of paint that's thicker is covering in black. Because if it was white or something like that, you could get away with just doing a thin shade. Okay, so this color here, we're going to paint everything that there's flesh on this guy. Okay? So what is that? Well, these guys have no shoes and like to show legs, so we're going to paint his entire leg. And same thing over here. Just paint all of it in one go. This is going to be the darkest recess colors, the space between fingers, all that stuff. Okay. And we're going to paint his hands over here and fingertips. Okay, we've got a little bit of this hand hiding under the shield here. And of course his face. Now we'll leave the parts that have a beard on them, because we're going to do something different with them. If you paint over them, all you're going to end up doing is having to repaint them over them. So what's the point? Just save yourself the time and not even mess with that. This guy looks a little bit, the figure, the guy who sculpted him, looks a little like the dad in Family Ties. If you guys know what I'm talking about. Maybe when we're done with him, you won't look like him so much. Because he does have a beard, but this guy's going to be a dark-haired Irishman. So, I don't know what percentage of Irishmen are dark-haired. But this will be one of them. He's going to be the exception. I don't think I'm going to do more than a third of him dark hair. Maybe not even that much. Okay. So we're done completely painting him. Now we're going to avoid the eye sockets because, again, that's a waste of time. Yeah, see, some of the primered paint on the top of his head just washed off. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint that because that kind of joins his face, and it's going to be a little bit before I get to that point. So it should have time to dry. So I'm going to come in here with that black and just come in and just take care of that, so we don't have that issue. All right, so we got the base color there of this color here with the the red leather. Okay, so we're going to add more red leather to this mixture. And then what we're going to do with that is, and I appreciate you guys watching. There's a handful of you guys watching. Don't be afraid to type. You got any questions and type your text in, whatever. I'll be happy to answer them. This is as informational it is for you as it is entertaining for me. This is my excuse to not do something different, but to get these guys knocked out. The sooner I get this army knocked out, the sooner you guys can see them in battle. So, okay, so we're going to void, and we're going to paint everything other than like the creases. So like for instance, I'm right here, I'm painting the fingers, and I'm leaving this color I had before in the crack between the fingers. Okay. Same thing with the knees. We know they've got like a little kneecap or whatever, so I'm avoiding that. We got toes here. We're going to paint the toes. That helps stand out. So it looks like he's not wearing flesh-colored leggings. No, this guy really is barefoot. And just about everybody in this army is going to be barefoot. So they're not big spenders on their equipment. You know, they just like, okay, we'll come to battle and bring your yellow shirt and you know, and you're good. What about shoes? Just bring what you wear around the house. Oh, this would be good army for Mitch, since he doesn't wear shoes. Nah, he wears shoes. He just doesn't wear shoes around his house. I don't either. I'm barefoot right now, but not going to get any peekaboo shots of me. You guys are sick. Anyhow, so we got the hands here. All right. And now the face. And what we're going to do with the face is almost always start with the forehead. Just paint across it. You're going to do like a T. You're going to paint across his forehead. And then you're going to come down the nose. That forms like a T. And then you're going to come in around the eyes and almost up to the nose, but not let it join. So there's a little bit of the darker shade there between them. Okay. And same thing on this end. And a little bit on the lips there. Is there a little bit of a neck showing? A little bit there. A little more on this side. Okay. And I'll show you guys a close-up of what this looks like. And unfortunately, I am not a fan of painting eyes. But when you're painting a figure and the sculptor decided to make his eyes look like they're wide open anyways, you kind of have to do that or it's going to look really weird. So I'm going to have to paint these guys' eyes. And I'm not scared. I had to do the other two with that as well. It's just a process, that's all. It's a short process, but it is a process. Okay, so this is one light. Where's this thing focusing on? Okay, this is one shade of the face lightened up. Face and the legs and stuff. Doesn't look like much right now. Doesn't look like much, but you know, you need to. it's a slow process, and you got to complete one step before you go on to the next. Now, I think I got one question that came up here. Let me put on my glasses so I can see what's going on. What do we have here? Oh, John Peter Hunt, you must feel lonely with no commenters. No, not anymore. You commented. Ah, you fell for my trap. No, I can sit here and have a monologue here the whole time. As long as I'm not arguing with myself. Actually, you can still argue with yourself. You're just not allowed to argue with yourself and lose the argument. Then you got problems. Okay, so we've done that. We've done this part here. So we're going to, I don't know why this chat box here in the center is still up. Okay. Oh, got another one again. No, it just popped up again. So yeah, I don't, I do not mind talking to myself. Not so much painting, but if I'm doing something like maybe putting something away in my room or something like that, that's multi-step, I frequently will talk to myself just to keep I call it self-coaching. Okay, it's to make yourself feel on track instead of like where was I? You just kind of keep on track. All right, so we've got this is the core color here with some of the red brown, and now we're going to go to almost full on red brown. Okay, and again, we're just going to hit the parts here that are more noticeable. Now, when I talk about thin coats, is some of the color that I had underneath is going to invariably show through this one. So I'm not, I mean, the paints are dry that I'm putting it on, but it's transparent enough that you get some of the subtle shading in between the colors. And I don't know how I developed this. This is just, don't know that I developed it. How I started painting this way, because this was before the internet was a resource. I gotta be careful. I don't say it's before the internet, because then somebody will say, "Oh, the internet's been around since 1990 or something like that," and that's not what I meant. But when it was all just those user groups and stuff in the mid 90s, I didn't go on the internet. I didn't get involved in the internet until the 98. I got my first computer in 99. My own personal computer that I could call my own in 99. So I was kind of late, but by that time it was a gateway. And don't ask me what kind of computer it was, because hell, I don't remember. I don't even remember what the one after that one is called. But that, now it's just like a huge resource of information and pictures and stuff. So, okay, so we're just finishing up this here. Each layer of this takes longer, and each layer on top of it is more fun to do, because that's one of the things I enjoy doing faces is it's bringing this guy to life. Before he just kind of looked like a nobody, and we're giving this guy a character. He's becoming someone, molding him into someone of importance. So, well, maybe not this guy. This guy is just a kern javelin guy after all. Anyhow, so yeah, half of this army is skirmishers. They're going to be a hoot. They're going to be a hoot, and they won't be playing in many opens. They're probably, but yeah, we seem to enjoy the battles with some of the crappier armies better. You just never know which way they're going to get, and you guys aren't going to go somewhere and see somebody playing with armies like that, So, okay, so we're done with this. Let's go ahead and do the eye part. Okay, the eye part is really simple. You just got to be patient. I think we'll do this. We're going to take one this is probably a liner, no doubt. Yeah, it's a 10-0 liner. The size doesn't necessarily matter so much, because each one's different. You don't necessarily stick to anything. So we're going to grab some white on here, and we want to make sure that it's not too runny. And you want to make sure it's not too thick. And all we're going to go in is we're going to come into this eye, which is actually protruding the figure. So if I didn't want to paint the eyes, I'm kind of screwed because it's on the figure and it sticks out. And that's all I'm going to do is just add a little bit of white there. Okay? And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And we're going to see if they're kind of even. Yeah, that's kind of even. Okay. Now we're done with the white. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing with the black. We'll come over here to the black. We don't want a whole lot of paint on there. I'm not going to worry about whether like if this guy's green-eyed or blue-eyed or anything like that. We're not painting irises, folks. Probably have to in 28s. Oh well. Okay. And all we're going to do is when we come to the pupil is we're going to paint a line through it. We're not going to try to put a dot to center it. We're going to put a line through it. And the same thing on the other side. I don't know if you guys can see that. Now, we'll pick up where we left off, okay? And where was that? That was at this stage right here, where we are adding more of this color here. Way too watery. Yeah, so we got the mounted coming. I had all the foot for these guys. They don't have a ton of mounted, but we've got we had what is it? A light horse general, another light horse. The cav. I got the figures for the cav. That's it. A light horse general and one other light horse because I've got everything else. I know there's a knight option. I've got the options for that. That's going to be Scots, but they're allied with, they're built into the army. That represents the Edward the Bruce's foray into Ireland to become king of the Irish in the early 1300s. That didn't work out so well for him. But we will be painting that option as well. So, but we're going to build the basic guys first. So, I'm going to do this Saloy because there's a bunch of them. That's what I tend to like to do. I like to do the stuff that's easy, so that it's harder for me to cop out of it, because it's easier to get a lot of stuff done. And they're like, well, all I got to do is paint 2 or 3 more figures. I'm done. Okay, so we're going to take now the sunny skin tone. All right, and we're going to take this core red brown. Now we're going to mix it into it. Okay. And then let's come over here. Make sure it's not too watery. Something else come up here. Let's see. Peter Davis. Hello, Peter Davis. Peter Davis says, was painting some Peter Pig and some alternative armies this evening. Love the older figures. I agree. They don't get enough love. Although I don't consider Peter Pig older figures. Well, that may be because my first my first Peter Pig figures I ever bought, and the only ones I've ever bought, because I didn't really start doing this scale and this type figures till 2004, 2005. was their Samurai line, which came out in 2009. They debuted at Historicon that year. And it's the only army I've picked up, purchased, and built and not copped out and went and did something else. I got them, painted them, and used them for a tournament um, within 6 months, which is something to be said for me. It's I paint so slow. My Samurai army, yeah, and they ended up winning a tournament with them. So um, those figures are beautiful, though. They're certainly, I wouldn't call them old school figures. They're just, and it's nice because as you know, Peter Pig figures tend to run small, and if you're going to paint small figures, they might as well be samurai or guys from not Gauls, okay? Because like for instance, Peter Pig also makes Romans and they make Germans, and their Romans, I think, look pretty darn good. I like the style that the Peter Pigs are done in. So it's funny. The Peter Pigs are done in the same style that many of the museum figures are done in. They've got that what I like to call the Habsburg jaw. Okay, they've got they're very jawy, and but the Peter Pigs I think are better proportioned, but they do run small compared to other figures. But that seemed to work great for the samurai. As a matter of fact, I appreciated that, and I love my samurai army. They're not 3.0 compatible yet, but do need to go back and fix them to make them 3.0 compatible. But they're a hoot. Um, but yeah, I like Peter. I wish Peter Pig had more figure variety, but they only make what Germans. They make Germans, Romans. They make Parthians, Tuareg, um, the samurai I just mentioned. They also make War of the Roses. Um, Man, what else did they make? I want to say I'm missing something that they make. Oh, they make Vikings. They make Saxons. Yeah, I definitely don't want to use them for Vikings. They're kind of small. I mean, unless your entire army's like that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with their figures. As a matter of fact, they have a lot of them have really good command figures and have lots of guys that would make like good heroes and stuff. So yeah, the Vikings are relatively new as well, and they've got lots of heroes, guys that got a lot of personality, but they're small, and I just envision Vikings being a little bit more burly than that. But there's nothing wrong with how they look. They're just on the small side. So, like you wouldn't want them in, say, like some of the Tin Soldier guys to face each other because there would be a big size difference, or the Zyston guys to face each other. It'd be a big size difference. So. Let's see what else we got. New Kingdom Egyptians. That's right. That's right. The New Kingdom Egyptians. But they don't make an opponent for the New Kingdom Egyptians, do they? Oh, you know what? They make some pre-Islamic Arabs. I think they do some like nomads, but they only make like 2 or 3 packs of them, whatever. Or maybe they make Nubians. Ooh, if they make Nubians, I gotta check. I've been wanting to do. Everybody's got New Kingdom Egyptian army. Everyone, Nubians. If they made Nubians, that would be kick ass. Because Nubians you could make really cool because you could, they're all dark skinned, very dark skinned, but you could like do hair in different colors and stuff. I've seen pictures of them with like red hair and stuff. Obviously dyed, but that would be cool. Lots of bow and some warband. They may make Nubians. But yeah, New Kingdom Egyptian, I forgot about that. And I want to say that's one of those that they don't show the pictures of the chariots paint what they look like. I could be wrong. I may have them mistaken with the Gladiator. Gladiator makes a lot of biblical type armies, but they don't have pictures of their stuff. They have pictures of their Egyptian, but they don't. They make like Syrians and who's the guys that came before the guys that came before the Mitanni. Mitanni, that's what I'm thinking of. Matanis, Syrians, that kind of stuff, and they don't have pictures of any of their figures. I'm like, um, just take pictures of them and put them on there. I mean, you guys are able to put on a website. I don't know how to do a website, but I know how to take pictures. Oh well, you people run their business however they want. You know, I mentioned this in one of my other videos. Is when you go to Historicon. When I went the first year, there was one vendor in particular. I think he's out of business now, or he just decided to fall out of business. And he sold figures, and he sold figures by the each, which hey, that's a win for me because if you know how I put things together, I want one of these, this guy, and one of this guy, and one of this guy. Unless I'm doing like Roman legionnaires or whatever, then I'm fine with them all marching in the same position. But for the most part, that's the exception to the rule. I don't mind having one figure these and one figure that, one figure that. But I don't want to buy, all these packs just to get figure variety. But if you're selling them by the each, I can decide how that works. Well, this particular vendor was smart enough to run a business, which, I don't know how to run a business, tax implications and those kind of things. So he's smart enough to do that, but he wouldn't take credit cards. He would take cash there. You could contact him by mail, but you'd have to send him a check. I don't remember the last time I wrote a check or sent something through the mail because as a buyer, I want to say, hey, I'm ready to purchase this item and maybe not get it immediately, but at least the cogs on the wheel of getting it to me start moving, not a week or so and then maybe they don't check the mail. And I'm a little antsy when it comes to that. But yeah, he couldn't take credit cards or debit cards. Or were debit cards that big a thing in 2006? I don't remember. It's all I use now. I don't touch regular cash. It's not worth dealing with the change and stuff. I use cashless cash, so basically the way I operate. But he wouldn't take anything other than that. He couldn't take PayPal. He couldn't. And at the time, I could take PayPal. So I'm like, he just was just kind of stuck in the old way of doing things. I think there's another vendor. I think Navor. I've never ordered anything from Navor, but Navor won't take credit cards either. You've got to. I think you have to call them or fax them your credit card number, and you do it that way, or send them a check. I'm like, man, I don't have time for that. You know, that's just too. I mean, I have no idea what it would cost to make a phone call overseas. I'm not interested. You know, those days are over as far as I'm concerned. You could Facebook Messenger somebody for free. I don't have a problem with actual phone call or communicating with somebody. So, but anyhow, I consider myself old school, but maybe I'm not that old school. Or maybe there's just some older school people than me. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same core color here, and I'm just going to add a little bit more of this. My core was kind of drying out, so we're going to add more sunny skin tone. Okay, so then we're going to bring it up a level. So yeah, I went to Historicon the first year I went, and I was like, "Holy moly, this place is like heaven! Everything's available." I didn't have to buy everything, but at least I could see things, see what everything looked like. And that was 2006. 2007, a couple of vendors that were there the previous year weren't there. You know, that had things I was interested in, which was ancients and medievals and 15 millimeter scale. And that kind of happened every year. Every year there was one or two vendors less of things I was interested in. Just got to the point that yeah, I really didn't need to go to Historicon to buy things, you know. So, but I did go to the flea market and I picked up quite a few things unpainted for me. Um, Other people I would travel with were always looking for painted stuff, but not me. I want to paint my own stuff, but I won't turn down. I won't turn down figures by the each or in a grab bag. I know I was looking through one box 3 years ago or so, and it had a bunch of elephants, and I was just looking to see what it was, and I'm looking through there, and I'm like, just see what kind of elephants are in there. I wasn't necessarily in the market for any of them, and the guy's like, "Hey, see anything you like in this?" No, I'm just kind of looking through here, and he just says $10, and I'm like, All right, for $10, there was like freaking 9 elephants in there. I'm like, I'm not leaving them. Okay, I will find a use somewhere down the road for elephants for like $1 each. And there was other things in there as well. So I'm like, that's how I got a lot of the lead that I have, which I probably have, I don't know, 70 pounds of 15 millimeter lead. So I'm fine not buying lead for a long time. I mean, yes, I ordered some mounted figures for these, but it's like I ended up I had 40 of the figures and I need to order four. I'm okay with buying things like that, you know. But yeah, I don't need to purchase anything for a while. I'm set. So kind of came in handy since this apocalypse, quote unquote, is upon us. So which makes it more difficult to get things. But that's not why I did it. It just there's just some things that are at a price that I'm just not going to leave them at the table, you know. So, but anyhow, this little guy here, my purchasing ramble. Yeah, I've got to pick up a few things in here, and then I should do a video on my painting area and where I have my what I have in storage here in the closet, which is extremely minimalist compared to most gamers. I know that's not saying a lot because gamers are insane. You know, they'll buy 50 or maybe it's just a people thing. They'll buy 50 things and use one. Like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. So we're almost done with this guy at this shade. Probably could have done a lot quicker with this if I wasn't so rambling, but it happens. I'm not in a hurry. Got to dot his little toes so they pop up a little bit. As if not, you're just wondering, what is this guy wearing? Is he wearing flesh colored tights? Okay, and then for the final one, we're going to add a little bit of white and probably whoa, yeah, we need to, there we go. That's more like it. I'm going to switch from this one because this one's picked up some of, these aren't the best brushes. And they're only because they're not natural. But this is really all that is available here in town at any of the stores. And I don't really want to mail order brushes without having seen them first. Because every brush is different. They're kind of like fingerprints. Um, but we're going to do a little bit of highlighting here on. Now, we need to go brighter than that. We need to do more white in it than that. Just hitting his top of his forehead here. His nose, a little bit on the cheeks. Now, we haven't touched his beard yet. Probably going to do that next. Okay, and then parts here like on his calf. Things that if the sun was shining is going to pop out a little bit more. And again, if you don't like how it turned out, you can always come back and say, you know, I'm going to add another shade to it or repaint it. I'm surprised that that hasn't happened to me more often. I only think of one time in recent memory that I wasn't happy with how something turned out and had to repaint it. And that was a tunic on one of my Asian armies on the general. I thought, okay, I'll do it in this color, and then when I did paint it in that one, it just didn't look right. So I was able to repaint it. I didn't strip it or anything. I just painted right over the color that was there before. Fortunately, because I paint so thin, it didn't cover up any of the details. So okay, so let's see if we can put him under the camera. I need to move this out of the way to make space for this here. And here he is with his face. All right, so let's go ahead and let's do a shield next. All right, I just figured this guy's going to have a light colored shield, right? And let's see, do we have a light color shield? We're in between colors here. I think something came in while I was painting. Let's see what we got here. Da, 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 da. Okay. John Peter Hunt. The problem with credit cards is that you have to pay them 3 to 4% of each transaction, and you need to pay monthly dues just for the privilege of offering them. PayPal seems to be the way to go. Yeah, I think PayPal is the way to go, and I know PayPal charges you because I've sold and bought on PayPal a lot. They charge you 10%. I've always said, look, people don't seem to have a problem paying, at least in the United States, for a cash price or a credit card price when you're buying gas. I wish everything was one price. I'm like, just mark it up and just make more money if you're paying cash, or make even more money, or make money if you're paying by credit card, make even more money if you're paying cash. That's just me. That's my philosophy. That's what I like to see as a consumer from my own consuming standpoint. So I understand, credit cards charge more money, so charge more money for credit cards. It's convenience. Maybe some people are like, that guy's trying to gouge me. I'm not going to do business with him. Well, maybe there's a way to hide it, but yeah, PayPal, that's that way. PayPal, yeah, what we used to do when we used to sell on eBay, and I've sold quite a few things on eBay because I sold all my old collections of things back on eBay in the early 21st century, say 2004 range. And back when we could tinker with the shipping charges, okay, I knew something would cost, say, $3 to ship it. So I'd put $4 for shipping, and I wouldn't lose any money on the PayPal transaction because it would be about the same. I wasn't trying to gouge anybody. I just you kind of have to make up for that. Especially if you were selling things that were like $1 and $2. You didn't want to lose money on that, where it's like, well, I'm just going to throw it in the garbage can then, So yeah, I understand that it costs, so you just need to mark things up. I mean, it's part of doing business. So the 3 or 4% seems like peanuts if your figures are only worth $1. He probably didn't want the hassle. Yeah, he just stuck in his own way. I mean, I guess. I don't want to deal with checks. I never understand businesses that'll take checks and won't take credit cards, because I used to work when my first job was in retail, and they would take checks, and dealing with a bounced check. I mean, it's like, who the hell wants to deal with that? It's like, you know what? Why don't you just steal the thing? Because it's less trauma than dealing with a bounced check. Everybody gets screwed with a bounced check, and it could be unintentionally bounced. It could be like where they thought they had money in it and their paycheck didn't come in. I mean, this was 30 years ago. 30 years ago? 40 years ago? 30 years ago. 30 years ago. So, I mean, maybe things have changed a little bit, but yeah, checks are just, no. Check is the worst way you could pay for something, in my opinion. So, can't stay long because it's after 3 a.m. and I should get some sleep. It's a hot night. Yeah, you don't know what a hot night is, dude. You do not know in Deutschland what a hot night is. It was 85 degrees, buggy, and 85 degrees humidity the other night with no breeze. That was hot and buggy. But I'll be back later today and look forward to your banter. Thanks for sharing. You're welcome, John Peter. He's always got something nice to say, so I enjoy the company. Maybe I'll see something here that'll keep you guys motivated to continue painting. I certainly do lots of that with other painters and stuff on YouTube, and I figured this was a way for me to stay motivated, continuing to paint something instead of finding something else to watch, like television. God forbid, I never watch TV. That's a waste of time, unless it's in the background while I'm painting. But I usually watch painters or something like that, to just kind of keep me company and stay on track. You'll see something on there that you like. I was watching a couple of videos of guys that have painting areas that they have in their houses, and they're kind of a tour. I kind of need to do one here. I think I got a pretty great one. I'm really happy with it. It's, I would say, really inexpensive the way I kind of went about it. Um, some other people have some really awesome ones, but man, they're expensive and take up like, I mean, I've got my own room and everything, but theirs is like really, really nice, but just cool to kind of see what ideas other people have. Okay, so what we're going to do here is kind of got ahead of myself here talking. Show you guys what I'm doing here. This is German World War II beige camouflage. Okay, and this is 103. This is just kind of like a light khaki color. Okay, this you got 40 degrees centigrade in the shade. Wow, that can't be northern Germany, is it? What part of Germany you living in? I bet there's good beer, whatever part of Germany you're in. Just like just like I say frequently, the UK is the land of toys. Deutschland is the land of beer, no doubt. I know there's beer in other places, but German beer is the best. So, in my opinion, um, I mean, there's Belgian stuff's good too, but I mean, just for variety, I mean, that's where it comes from. So we're going to take this negative. We're going to take this negative shade here. Okay. Oh, I lost my figure. Here we go. We're going to take this negative shade here, and we're going to paint his entire shield with it, which I'm not really sure what it is. It's got a fingerprint on it, almost like it's a slab of wood, like it's just hewn by hand or something like that. But yeah. We're going to paint this whole thing in this color. Okay. And I get really late. I do one lazy thing when I'm doing shields. I don't like to go in and paint a different type of color on the back. So I'll usually paint the back the same color as like the darkest shade of the shield. Okay. Because that's just one step I can skip. I don't skip many corners in my painting, which explains why it takes so freaking long. But this is one because it's not even really that noticeable. Well, now you're going to notice it because I told you, but I don't even, I'm my own worst critic, and I don't even notice it. So, okay, so we've got this guy completely painted with and it looks like it's, well, it's funny because this is German World War II beige camouflage. I don't know what, I'm a World War II nut, and I don't recognize this as the color. This might be like a color that's in the Zeltbahn, which is their little poncho thing. That's what I'm thinking is what this is, one of the Zeltbahn colors. And right now you add black to it and it looks like Panzer Gray. So coincidence? I think not. Anyhow, so we are going to add more of the Zeltbahn tan. I painted many a World War II thing. I still love World War II as a venue for war games more than anything else. But I've played so much of it that learning about this type of history, these medieval and ancient stuff that I just had cursory knowledge, has been really entertaining. And you can only do so many different accents when you're playing different people in World War II. So um, yeah, you got access to different kind of stuff here when you're playing these other, almost said factions, other nations. Um, okay, so we just did a little bit of the detailing there. Let's add a little bit more Zeltbahn. Talk about something that's a pain in the ass to paint on your figures. Now, all of my World War IIs are skirmish, and they're in 20 millimeter scale, 1/72nd scale vehicles. I got a fair amount of infantry. I probably have a company of Germans in 1-to-1 scale, which is a lot for me. Remember, it's taken me 4 hours to paint a figure, so I've got a lot of hours invested in those guys. Um, Among other stuff, I've got Americans and Russians and a handful of Brits. Um, but I haven't painted any Who's got the Zeltbahn covers? Well, some of them have them on their helmets. I just refused at that point to paint them. Now I'd probably be tempted to try one of them. Luftwaffe troops, Luftwaffe ground troops have a Zeltbahn type cover. I got to think about that stuff now. First, I've been out of doing WW2 stuff for almost 20 years. That's all I used to do, and there's so many different ways to play World War II now. You know, you want to play a World War II game. There's lots of games you can play on a computer that you can get that fix in. You know, not it wasn't just like, oh, we got to do miniatures. There's so many different ways, so it's really easy to step out of that and not do that anymore. Um, but you guys play any video games or computer games familiar with a series that they used to have and they still have now called Close Combat? Phenomenal system. I played a lot of it back in the day, and yeah, that's one way to get your. And there's modern iterations of it now. That's one way to get your WW2 fix for sure. You get to play with miniature tanks, and little guys are running around the field and getting mowed down, and great game. Yeah, so this shield looks like it's pretty darn heavy for this guy to carry around. You know what? That's not my problem. He chose it. You just get rid of it and pick up something else that's lighter when he gets a chance. All right, let's go back to the true color, which we were almost at. I think we probably need to add a little bit of white. Lighten that up for the highlights. And I tried to pick figures that had a variety. So I think of these Soloi, not a single figure is a repeat, which is pretty scary. How many figures that they make from Essex that have that are barefoot, wearing just kind of like a tunic or a man's muumuu, I should say. Okay, so this is there's his little shield. Okay, there he is. Let's go paint his spear. Let's go ahead and get the metallic part out of it. I don't put a whole lot of thought into this. They're just going to grab Citadel lead belcher or any kind of metallic color you happen to have. Put some metallic. I usually use it, put it in the corners there. Maybe there's a chance that I could use it on the next one. Is this guy even carrying a sword? Because sometimes they have a. I think all of these other guys, the other two have a sidearm. This guy, nope, he's a one-trick pony. He's got a spear or javelin, and that's it. All right, so we're gonna paint that up there. And let's see what color javelin we're gonna do. Let's do a. That one's got a light one. You know, let's do another light colored javelin. Oh, we still have some of the color here that we used earlier. Let me close that. Okay. And all right, so let's go ahead and do some brown. That's the chocolate brown. And I believe that's Iraqi sand. Another really useful color. I use that a lot. And same thing. Let's create a dark shade here. Now we need to go darker than that. Well, we don't need to. I'd like to go darker than that. Let's just go with this darn near the core color here, or the original shade. All right. And then we're going to add a little bit more of this, the Iraqi sand to it. Mm. Then after this, folks, all we got left is his hair. And that's another part that's really fun is if you've got a figure that has a beard, painting that's cool because that kind of brings them to life. It gives them a personality. You could even name them in your head like, oh, this is so and so. He's got a he's got a personality then. All right, and let's do one highlight shade. So we're going to use the yeah. See, as the wet palette dries, you've got the paper that crinkles up. It bubbles up. All you got to do is add more water to it. So I think next painting session, that's probably what I'm going to start with is doing that because it's not really causing any harm. It's just kind of annoying that it's kind of bubbling up. Okay, there's the spear. All right, one thing left, beard. We said he was going to be dark haired. Well, I don't want to make him black just yet. His black, give him a black beard. So we're just going to go like, well, we're going to start with like a dark brown and then work up from there. So we don't want to go crazy and have an entire army of damn near everybody with red hair. That's just not going to look right. You need a variety of different folks. So, and there's red hair and there's strawberry type blonde, and not everybody's going to have hair this color. Okay, that's just not going to look right, or like this, you know, light brown, which really should be called Georgia clay. Okay, where did we have our, was it this? Yeah, okay. So we're going to paint his beard and his hair. Curly haired Joker. Yeah, so I happen to actually like this casting. This is a good casting by the sculptor, which I kind of did a post there on Facebook yesterday because I mentioned in my painting sessions that one of the things I feel like the sculptors don't get enough recognition for what they're doing. And oh, how about we paint in front of the camera? Okay. I think the miniature figure sculptors don't get enough recognition for what they're doing. And I was like, okay, well, can you guys tell me who the sculptors are for some of these figure lines? Like this Essex guy, whoever sculpted the Essex, he did a lot of stuff. I mean, that guy was busy. He didn't sculpt 20 figures or 100 figures. He sculpted thousands. You could tell it's the same guy because it's the same style that they're done in. So somebody did answer what his name was. I don't remember what he has, but Robertson. Maybe his last name was Robertson. Anyways, I've got his name. Like that's pretty cool that that guy was extremely prolific. Everybody knows about Essex figures. So, okay, so that's the first coat. Let's add a little bit more of this core color, the brown. And now since he's kind of curly haired, I'm not really brushing it on. I'm more almost like dabbing it. And then we're going to go ahead and lighten it with, let's lighten it with not white, but with this Iraqi sand. There we go. Almost like a little bit of a wet dry brush too, to kind of hit those high spots with the contrast. All right, and then let's go one more. Okay, this guy's pretty much done. So let's put him on a little mounting thing here. You guys can get a closer view, and of course, I'm gonna have we'll have some pictures on the Facebook groups as well, and zoom up so we could see. See, is that in focus? I'm trying to look through two things. Yeah. Now, it's this light makes it look a lot whiter and more washed out than it really is. But here he is, along with this guy, and along with this guy. All with the same core. Yellow is the base. So we've got a greenish type tunic. We've got a true yellow type tunic. And then we've got the one that we did here had a little bit more. It's a little bit more brown looking. So 3 figures down of the Saloy, 9 to go. So we're getting there. At this rate, we'll be done in a couple weeks with them. And what we're going to do is when we get to the end of the Saloy, we're going to go ahead and base all them. We will varnish them, and we will base them. So we'll have something to look at here that's kind of gives us as a core look for the Army. So that's what we're going to be doing with these guys. But anyhow, thanks for joining me. This is just about over an hour and a half, and we got 1 figure done. So hey, that's pretty good for me considering I was yammering. So yeah, 3 guys down of the Irish. Many more to go. Okay, don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this useful. I got other painting tips on there, and there's going to be more painting sessions coming up. So hopefully, guys, will see something that, or you did see something that you found useful that you can use in your own painting. Until next time, this is Tony Aguilar. You guys have a good night. See ya.